Hello and welcome to today's webinar. It's great to have you here. Today we're going to go through electric cars. So just go through cars, vans, going to touch on commercials, not really our area of expertise, but take you through that and give you some useful contacts. And just try and go through some of the history of electric cars, where they stack up today, some of the myths and rumours and reasons why people propose to not introduce them, some of the benefits both from a environmental perspective and also a financial perspective. My name's Andrew Leach. I'll be your host to take you through this webinar. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact me afterwards at andrew.leach@fleetevolution.com. And we should be together for about 25 minutes going through this to just give you a general overview of electric vehicles and where we are. So what I want to start off with is just to go through why you should look at electric vehicles. So it's all well and good talking about electric vehicles, but why should we look at them? Well, there's two main reasons. The first one is the environment and your children, and if it's not too emotive, your children's children. And the second one is financial. So let's start off with the environment. Well, we've all heard about CO2. I've heard a talk recently about global warming. I've heard various ones through the years, whether you believe in it or not, whether you're on the Attenborough side or the Donald Trump side. What we can't deny is that our environment is becoming more polluted. So CO2, NOx, particulates, and NOx and particulates and hydrocarbons are the nasty ones, because these are ones that are making it more difficult for people to breathe in the cities. These are ones that are making potentially having a more adverse effect on our health, and these are ones that we really need to iron out and try and reduce in the atmosphere. And there's some big financial incentives to do that and disincentives to continue with fossil fuels. Fossil fuels are getting more expensive. They're literally 3 times the cost they were 20 years ago and only likely to go one way. And penalties are being applied in quite large measure to town councils, city councils that fail to get their air pollution in control. And of course, part of you may think, why should I care about that? You should care because at some point, they're going to pass that cost on to you and probably pass it on with an uplift, or your employees, or your customers, or somebody like that. So there's never been a better time to look at greening your fleet and look at new technologies from an environmental perspective, but it's going to get more punitive as time goes on. So the government are at the moment putting out lots of carrots and stick, the old analogy. At the moment, the carrots are fairly huge. If you're a company car driver, then from 2020, you're going to have a huge carrot to move over to electric cars. Benefit in kind will be slashed. If you have a Tesla, for example, which is a £100,000 pure electric supercar, you're going to be paying about £50 a month benefit in kind tax. Through salary sacrifice, it's even better. If you have an electric Golf, it will be £200 cheaper on salary sacrifice than a diesel Golf would be if you were to go to a dealer. So some big carrots. Big carrots as well around subsidies, around charge points, around electricity, around solar panels, subsidies around congestion charges, and then the stick. So where we work by Birmingham introducing a congestion charge zone next year. So if you drive a diesel registered before 2015 into the city centre, you'll have to pay quite a lot of money. It gets worse. If you're in Oxford, your employees won't be able to drive into the city centre fairly soon if they're in diesels and less clean cars. I was going to say unclean cars. That's a bit harsh. Let's say less clean cars. And this could affect you. This could affect you in ways you haven't even thought about at the moment. If you've got a team that need to come through those central cities, or indeed if you're based in central city, you could find your whole position as an employer of choice being under threat because the cost of getting to or from you could be onerous. In Birmingham, whereby it's tragic because they're introducing a congestion charge, but actually the council have freely admitted our public transport infrastructure just isn't fit for purpose. So undaunted, they're just ploughing on regardless with congestion charge when there's no alternative. But there we go. I guess something has to happen. And when you look at the fines being leveraged at cities across the world, then yes, something definitely needs to happen. Electric cars are the obvious and much talked about solution. Every week now there's some kind of discussion on the radio or TV about electric cars. During major TV events, there's electric vehicles being advertised. And they do seem the obvious choice. And they've moved on a lot. So 5 years ago, when we were one of the first companies to bring the Nissan Leaf to salary sacrifice car schemes, you had one choice pretty much, a Nissan Leaf, which did 80 miles between charges, and was fairly good, but not really an everyday car. Or a Tesla. If you had more money than sense, forgive me, anybody who's listening to this who drives a Tesla, yeah, if you had a lot of money, or you drove one heck of a lot of miles, I guess, then a Tesla for £80,000 could be yours as well. Nowadays, there's loads of different options, from a Renault Twizy, which on our scheme is about £100 a month. Really bizarre vehicle, very, very quirky, two-seater pure electric vehicle, right up to something like a Porsche Taycan, so four-seater supercar that will do hundreds of miles between charges. And then in between, and will be more realistic level, you've got things like the e-Niro, the e-Kona, the e-Golf, those types of cars, mainstream favourites of employees and drivers, just being reinvigorated with pure electric engines that will quite happily do 200 to 300 miles between charges. Now we're going to run through 4 examples just to give you an overview of how these fit into your strategy or could fit into your strategy. The first one is a hybrid. Now I haven't got a slide on this. This is a plug-in hybrid. So there's 2 different types of hybrid you'll hear about. The hybrid is an older style technology. It's technology which is designed to recover waste, what would be wasted energy. So it's a traditional petrol or diesel engine, but then it fills the battery every time you brake. So when you're coming up to traffic lights and take your foot off the accelerator, the car will brake for you. It will take that heat from the friction and put it back into the vehicle, so you can use that to drive a short distance next time. Good technology, quite old technology now, been around a few years. It does help improve economy. It does make me laugh. Toyota are advertising this as self-charging hybrids, as if it's a new evolution in technology. It is really a step back, but it still has a place. The better hybrids are the plug-ins. So the plug-in hybrids are designed for everyday life. They're designed for people like me who 5 days a week tend to trundle around to from the office. My office is 21 miles away. This is actually my old car, a Mitsubishi Outlander hybrid, so big 4x4 that will do 21 miles, which gets me to my office, and then I charge at the office and get home without ever using electricity. Ever using petrol. And when I'm shooting around with the kids at the weekends, doing what all mums and dads do, being basically a glorified Uber, doing all those little stop-start journeys, electricity just runs forever. It absolutely runs forever. So lots of big pros. It will get you 21 miles, typically this car, 25 most hybrids, electric range, and then it will just automatically switch to petrol or diesel, or you can recharge it. So you can charge it from a fast charge point like this is, in which case it will recover 21 miles in about 20 minutes, or recharge it from just a normal external socket at home, which will take about 4 hours overnight and cost you in the region of about 40p if you've got a decent off-peak tariff to do those 21 miles. The new version of this does 31 miles between charges. We've had one on demo for a while. It's gone down really well. The cons, so it's got a high list price. So this car is a £41,000 car, and with the best will in the world, it's not really a £41,000 car when you jump in it. The reason for high list price, it's got 2 engines, petrol and electric, and it's also got lots of battery cells underneath the floor pan. So a slightly higher price than petrol or diesel would be. Can be polluting on long journeys. Once you run out of that electricity, then because it's quite a heavy car, because of those 2 motors and because of the fuel cells, or the battery packs rather, then it typically does about 33, 34 miles to the gallon if you're cruising along the motorway speed. And I won't elaborate what that means, but yeah, the typical speed that most people move along a fast lane in. It still relies on fossil fuels, so it's still outdated technology, we would say, compared to what's coming, but, you know, it has a place. And it has higher company car tax than electric vehicles, or I have to say, much lower company car tax than something like a Range Rover Evoque, which would be an equivalent vehicle powered by diesel on this particular one. It's a good stepping stone. So employees like me, I do 30,000 miles a year, who a couple of years ago might have been nervous about going pure electric. It was a good stepping stone, a good compromise. So I got used to charging infrastructure. My wife's had an electric car for about 5 years. She's a teacher with an academy on our scheme. But for me, doing a lot more miles, it was a good kind of stepping stone. But things have moved on dramatically with electrics now. My wife had one of the very first Nissan Leafs that did 80 miles on pure electric. The new one can do up to 240 miles on pure electric. And this car in this picture here, the Tesla, they allege can do 300 miles on pure electric. Have to be honest, in our experience, it does about 220. That's our experience. But it's still a significant range, And then when you get towards the end of that range, you can recharge it at motorway fast charge points. Literally, you'll get another 180 miles in about half an hour. So fast charged on this particular car. The pros of pure electric, so you've got running costs. So we've got an example there of a more, let's say, cost-effective car than the Tesla. So Nissan Leaf, this is from one of our customers. They covered 32,500 miles, and it cost them £341 in electricity. Just imagine that. That's basically 3 months' worth of diesel. That's the equivalent cost. So huge cost savings on that. My wife's Leaf, I think she worked out it costs her about £8 a month for her Leaf to actually run it off electricity. Although we do just run it off peak and then charge it off peak. We have a timer on our smart charger, so it automatically charges it overnight until it's full. It also defrosts it, de-ices it, does lots of other things. So when you get down in the morning, it's basically nice and warm, cosy, and me and my wife tend to fight over it if I'm doing short distances. But there we go. I normally lose, of course. So running costs, performance, charging. This car does 0 to 60 in 3 seconds. It's a phenomenal piece of engineering. And all electric cars are quite good fun to drive. We have to educate employers in how to do that, or employees rather, because a lot of employees still think you need that 3-litre engine below your foot to feel alive. The reality is far from it. Whether you want to whiz around town in and out of gaps, your electric cars will do that all day long, or if you want to just go out in the morning when the roads are quiet, listening to Catherine Jenkins or wherever else happens to be your passion on your way into work. Again, all you have is tyre noise, no other noise going on. And charging, so most cars will charge, they have fast charge enabled, and you can recover about 100 miles in about 40 minutes at most fast chargers. Some chargers are even faster, so you can recover a lot more. Anybody that drives over 200 miles typically will want just a coffee break, and in that coffee break you can easily get 100 miles. The cons, so the capital cost. Electric cars do tend to be a bit more expensive than petrol and diesels, but that gap is narrowing significantly. And we'll talk you through that on the next slide. Range anxiety? Yes, it's something you don't experience in petrol or diesel. You can run that gauge, and lots of us do, until the light comes on, and you'll still be okay. You know you're only 5 miles away from a petrol station. It's not always that simple with electric cars. It can be more complicated. You do need to plan things a bit better. But modern cars, they will help you. They will actually tell you where to go just off the motorway to recharge or just on the motorway to recharge. And last one, infrastructure, and I'll come on to that in a second. But it's still something most people perceive as a con. I would actually say it's a pro of electric cars, and I'll explain why in a second. You've got a fuel station on your drive, effectively. But I'll explain that in a second. The next one, hydrogen. So hydrogen's one that always makes me smile, because we deal with lots of cars. We've got lots of cars in our fleet, and some of them are better electrics-wise than others. So I have images of little mushroom clouds just down the M42 by some manufacturers with their cars, and some of the electrical problems we have to overcome. But yeah, hydrogen, at the moment, it's something which seems to tick all the boxes, but until I think governments find a way to tax it, it's not really going to take off. We're in a kind of chicken and egg situation. It is difficult to produce, and that makes it expensive, but the only pollutants are water from the tailpipe. So at the moment, it's difficult to produce, and therefore the cars are expensive to make. We're really waiting for that time when, like the chicken and egg, either manufacturers make more, or we find it easier to actually extract the hydrogen. Once I think the government, like I say, or a government somewhere in the world, find a way to tax this like they do electricity or petrol, I think this will take off in a big way, but that may not be for the next 10 years with all the kind of focus on electricity at this point. So I've shown you some fairly exotic products there. We've spoken about mini mushroom clouds and various other stuff. Let's look at more real life scenarios. So let's take a couple of examples. We'll take a car example and a van example. The car example we've got for cost-based justification is a Ford Focus. So standard family wear, really. You can throw 3 kids in the back, they'll be relatively happy. You've got 400 odd litres boot space, and it's a very, very capable Ford Focus Titanium in this case. And that would cost about £400 a month on lease. The fuel cost would cost about £100 per month on that particular vehicle. If you lease that privately, it costs you, lease that business-to-business contract hire, it costs the same as Nissan Leaf. So you could have a Nissan Leaf the exact same amount of money. So when people say electric cars are expensive, well, actually, it's pretty much identical. But the electric cost is significantly lower. If you were paying 15 pence per kilowatt, and most of you out there were paying less off peak or less for your corporate rates, it's a lot cheaper. It's £30 per month to do 1,000 miles. And salary sacrifice, it gets better still. It's £300 that particular car through salary sacrifice, but that also includes insurance, which the other two examples don't. And that will cover about 180 miles range. If that's not enough for you, then you can actually go for a Hyundai Kona, which will cost £500 a month if you'd have that again on a personal lease or business-to-business contract hire, or salary sacrifice will be £400, so much cheaper. There's no congestion zone, and other grants are available there as well. And this car will do about 280 miles between charges. If you look at the commercial vehicle side, so Ford Transit and Nissan NV200, which is one of the examples I'm going to show you, roughly the same to actually buy. So 19,000 plays 17,000, but the fuel saving is huge. £155 a month on those. The NV200 has a limited range. It'll only do 100 miles. But if you're located in city centre, we're going to get congestion charging come in, and you've got lots and lots of drops to make. You can bring it back. You can fast charge it at your depot. 20-minute charge, you'll get roughly about 60 miles, possibly more, depending on how much electricity you can push into it, which depends on your circuitry in your office. So while you're loading and offloading, it can be charging ready to go out again. Huge savings from these vehicles, and I'd urge you to look at them if you can. If you've got commercial vehicles or you need bigger vehicles, we have lots and lots of partners. We're a member of a low carbon group. We can refer you to lots of companies that can look at retrofitting coaches, HGV tractor and trailer units to actually allow you to have plug-in hybrid technology on those types of units as well. So again, you have the best of both worlds. So fantastic stuff actually coming out there. If you want to look to move to electric cars, let's just take a 10 vehicle fleet as a very basic example. So if you've got people using vehicles for company business and they're doing 10,000 business miles, then basically that would cost you about £42,000 over 3 years in petrol or diesel. If you, as an alternative, were to put 3 fast charge points in, and let's imagine you've got to pay for them. So if you use some provider, if you use us, for example, we put them in free of charge if you have 10 cars from us. But let's assume you've got to pay for them. It would cost you about £21,000 to have 3 years electricity. That's at 15p per kilowatt, which is quite a high cost for corporate electricity, and your charge points. You'd save £20,000 over 3 years. Huge amount. If you've got 100 cars, put a zero on the end. You know, it really starts stacking up pretty quickly. Now, yes, a electric car may not suit every single trip an employee makes. If you do have an employee who's balmy enough to drive from, let's say, Morpeth down to Kent once a month, then don't make them do some electric cars if they don't want to. Use some of that saving. It would cost you about £60 per hire, including your fuel reimbursement, to put them in a hire car. And we can arrange that for you as well. So where we do put in these types of schemes, whether it be salary sacrifice for perk users or employee car schemes, we put in something called Electric Flex. So if people need a car for business, they can request a hire car and we provide it within the monthly rental. If they need a car for holidays, again, they can give up their 2-seater Renault Twizy if they want to, and they can jump into a 7-seater MPV to go from Newcastle to Newquay for 2 weeks to take the kids away for a summer holiday, all included in their monthly sacrifice. So you don't need to compromise. If there's only 1 day a month you need a petrol or diesel car, let people have them. You know, don't try whole hog to just convert people, because diesel's still quite a good technology. Infrastructure. So everybody says there's no infrastructure. I absolutely disagree for 60% of us. So 60% of us have a drive or garage, and that means 60% of us have a petrol station right outside our house. So every morning you can come to your Kia Niro and you'll have 280 miles ready to go. When we say 280 miles, that's a usable 280 miles. In our test, we get between 260 and 280 miles out of Kia Niros. So that's on a single charge. How often do you do more than 280 miles? And on a rare occasion you do, well, pull over to a fast charge point, take 20 minutes for a Starbucks, give yourself a little boost. Your Starbucks is basically free with the money you actually save. So it's very, very easy to charge up. If you're in apartment blocks or things like this, well, it's changing. We're not quite there yet. So if you've got employees in apartment blocks, you need to be a little bit mindful of their actual needs and not try and force them into things. But going forward, most new builds have charge points. There's also a 27% increase in charge points last year and it's likely to increase again. And some of them 50 kilowatts, some are 100 kilowatts, they're real fast charge points. Every motorway services except one has fast charge points. And next time you're driving up and down the motorway, just look for them. The green eco-tricity ones with green Union Jack on, there'll always be some available there. And I've just got 4 examples there of sites you can use just to plan routes. Hopefully our e-Nero will be here by Whitsun, so the end of May, and we're taking ours to Rome with the family. So, you know, yeah, we'll have to stop for fuel stops, but we stop anyway when we go on family road trips every kind of 4 hours, and it all just dovetail very, very nicely. Plus in Europe, they've got 100 kilowatt chargers, so literally our Kia Niro, in the time it takes for children to go for a toilet break, we'll get roughly about another 200 miles in it. It's just ridiculous money we'll save. And don't forget, you can have dirty diesels when the occasion requires, and you can bundle those into your scheme. If you don't take a scheme from us, but just buy electric cars yourself, again, from that saving, you can just fund rental cars through Avis or Enterprise and save yourself a fortune. But there's lots and lots of other grants, incentives and giveaways. So vehicle grants, £4,500 off new EVs, £8,000 off vans, money off charge points. If you're in something like the hospitality trade, you can quite often get free charge points. Certain authorities will give you heavy discounts towards charge points, but you do need to open them up to other providers. Tesco are putting loads of charge points, so are Green King pubs, so are Marston's pubs. Loads of people are putting them in at the moment. By me, in Lichfield, I've got a Waitrose and an Asda, but both have them. So beginning of the month, we can recharge at Waitrose. End of the month, just before payday, we can recharge at Asda. So you'd be amazed how often these things actually crop up. Councils will give you aid for street charging if you're in construction or if you're doing refurbs to businesses. They'll quite often give you some funding for that. We're partners of Coventry and Warwickshire Green Energy Partnership. And again, they'll give businesses in those areas quite a lot of funding. We can help you with this type of thing. Solar, getting really geeky. I'm running out of time, so I'll be quick, but I've got solar panels on my house. I charge my car in the day from solar panels. My car is a big battery. And then once the sun goes down and we start cooking tea and putting water heaters and things like that, if we haven't used the electricity in the car, we take it back. So the free electricity is actually drawn back from the car. Or you could do the same with off-peak. We've got customers that reduce their electricity bills from £100 a month down to £30 a month. Huge savings. So I hope that's been informative. In terms of fleet evolution, we put in salary sacrifice car schemes. So we basically make new cars more affordable for your employees via a gross pay deduction. They save up to half the cost of a car. I know it's got 40% on there, I'll explain, by doing it through salary sacrifice, but then they pay company car tax. So on a really green car, that company car tax is virtually nothing. So like I say, an e-Golf is about £300 a month, as opposed to a diesel Golf retail would be £500 a month. Huge savings. Something like an I-Pace at the moment, Jaguar I-Pace, pure electric, supercar, less than £600 a month on our scheme. So some really, really big savings there. And the greener the car, the bigger the savings. We also take away the lever risk for you, and we take away the vast majority of the admin for you. All you need to do is pay us, make the deduction, and countersign orders. There's my details. Hope it's been good. I've tried to keep the sales spin at the end fairly brief. If there's anything else you'd like to go through, just visit our website. We've got loads of downloads, or ping me a note. Very happy to give you a free consultation. If you decide not to go with us, but just buy your own vehicles, or just even replace your own vehicle by buying something, I'm happy. We just need to work together to get the environment greener and just get people excited about electric cars. Thank you for joining me.